Hey guys, it's Monday, August 31st. And, just departing a customer, and wanted to talk a little bit about driving a truck.
In 500 feet, turn right on South 4th Avenue, and then turn right in 450 feet.
All right. I want to talk about shifting the truck. It's not like shifting a car. It doesn't have synchronizers, so you can select whatever gear you just want to. There's an RPM range that the truck should operate in, and for the most part it's 1,000 to 1,500 RPMs. If you go above that in RPMs, you're not making torque, so you're not going to pull hills any better, you're not going to go any faster, but you will waste fuel. So you want to keep it within that range. The first thing though that you need to be aware of, when you go to pull out, select the right gear to pull out in. If you're heavy, you'll pull out in first or second. If you're light, you'll pull out in third. And that's not counting the low range, which the only way you'd ever want to use that is if you're moving something in the yard and for some reason you need it. But you get in the right gear and you don't give it any accelerator pedal to pull out. You let the clutch out and slowly, and the truck will begin to move. And then you can apply the accelerator pedal once the clutch is all the way out. Otherwise, you're going to burn your clutch up in just no time at all. And it's going to do some strange things, lurching around and jerking around on you. All right, so we'll talk about this stop here. I'm coming to the stop. I pushed my clutch in to get it out of 6th gear, which is what I was in. And I pulled it back to the gear I wanted to go in, which, because I knew I was coming to a stop, I'm pulling it back and going into 2nd gear because I'm fairly heavy. And I just held it at the gate. In other words, I just pulled it back enough to where I could feel the gears rubbing a little bit. And then as my speed slowed, I could feel it rubbing slower and slower until you feel it stop rubbing, and then you pop it into gear. If you go any slower, then it'll begin rubbing the other direction, and you'll have to push the clutch all the way to the floor. Okay, now I'm pulling out in 2nd gear, taking my turn nice and wide. Clutch out and clutch in. You have to double clutch to shift gears in a truck. In other words, you push the clutch, not all the way to the floor. You push the clutch about half of its travel to get it out of gear into the neutral position. Then you push the clutch again to pull it into the gear. So it's a double clutch. Now, once you get a little more proficient, you know, get real used to your RPMs and your speeds, you'll be able to shift gears without using the clutch at all. You'll only use the clutch to pull away from the stop, or to get it out of gear if your speed is changing too quickly to pull it out of gear easily. Like right now, I'm using the clutch to get it out of gear. I'm going to pull it into 6th gear. I'll talk about downshifting next, but you know, I rev it a little bit to get the RPMs up to where I need it to be, and I'll take my turn in 6th gear. That's because I had plenty of room and I knew I didn't have to stop. And the grade allowed me to take it in 6th. Otherwise, you'd want to take it down to 5th or 4th. If you're going to trucking school, they're probably going to want you to do all of your turns in 3rd gear. Just be aware of that. Don't try to take your turns faster, because it can be a danger of a rollover if you take it too fast. So, clutch to neutral, clutch to gear. If you miss the gear, because I was talking, then you'll have to rev with the clutch out. That means your foot off of it. Rev, and then push the clutch in and pop it into gear fast. So shifting a truck up is much different than a car because of the double clutch. I've gotten so used to shifting without the clutch that it's rare that I ever have to use the clutch. If you find that you try to go into gear and you miss the RPMs, then you're either going to have to go down another gear or you're going to have to rev to get it into gear. Now downshifting. Let's say, for example, I'm going to take this exit, which I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to take this exit. It is my GPS is trying to turn me around, take me the other way. I'm going to go this way anyway. I want to begin my slowdown, and I'll slow down until I'll watch my RPMs more than my speedometer until my RPMs get down to at least 1,000. It's even better if you get them down to about 600 and you feel it almost begin to lug. Then you can clutch out, rev slightly, and pop it into the next lower gear, or you even have the option to rev it higher and go down 2 gears. But for school and for learning purposes, you want to do 1 gear at a time, and you always want to use your clutch. Get used to doing it, because they're going to be grading you on your use of the clutch. As a matter of fact, some companies will do a ride along once a year with you, or once every 6 months, and make sure you're using the clutch properly. That's because they don't want to replace clutches. Now, if you look at Eaton Fuller, that's the manufacturer of the transmission. What their recommendation is that you clutch out and float in. That means you press the clutch one time to get it into neutral, and then you take your foot off the clutch altogether. When your RPMs are right, you drop it into the next gear. Once it's in the gear, then you tap the clutch to seat it. That's the preferred method by Eaton Fuller, at least according to their manual. And the second tap will allow it to go on into gear if you have not put it all the way into gear and put it under a load, so it's only halfway in gear. That's where you can get it to pop out, and you can actually get into a dangerous situation where all of a sudden you have no control over your truck because you're not in gear. So, like on hills and stuff. So that's basically it. It does take a little bit of practice and finesse to get it right, but the only thing I can say is, if you can go with a driver and watch them do it before you go to trucking school, you'll get a much better feel of what you're going to have to do than if you just walk into it blindly. When I went to trucking school, I had never even been in a semi in my life, much less watched anybody drive them. So, if you can get yourself a little bit of exposure ahead of time, it'll take away some of the intimidation.